In the dimly lit casino showroom of the International Hotel in Las Vegas, August 1970, Elvis Presley stood center stage in a white jumpsuit with an elaborately embroidered eagle across the chest. As suspicious minds filled the room, Elvis suddenly struck a pose that puzzled some audience members, legs apart in a wide stance, one arm extended forward with the hand flat like a blade, the other pulled back in a tight fist near his hip. What the crowd didn't realize was that they weren't just watching a singer's theatrical flourish. They were witnessing a perfect Kenpo Karate fighting stance, executed by a man who had spent over a decade secretly mastering an ancient fighting art that would ultimately transform everything about his public image, from his iconic costumes to the very way he moved across the stage. Few people knew that beneath the rhinestones and capes lay not just an entertainer, but a dedicated martial artist with a passion so deep it eventually led to a secret incident in 1974 that was deliberately hidden from the press and public for nearly 5 decades. Elvis's journey into martial arts began during his military service in Germany from 1958 to 1960. Stationed in Freiburg, the young superstar was introduced to karate by Jürgen Seidel, who taught him the basic forms of Shotokan karate. What started as a casual interest to pass time during his deployment would grow into an obsession that transformed Elvis's life. But there was something else that happened during those army years that Elvis rarely spoke about, an incident that planted the seeds of his martial arts fixation in ways nobody understood until now. When Elvis returned to civilian life in 1960, his interest in karate didn't wane, it intensified. Back in Memphis, he sought out instruction from Chito-ryu karate expert Hank Slemensky. Later, while filming in Hollywood, Elvis trained under Ed Parker, the founder of American Kenpo Karate and a man who would become one of Elvis's closest friends and mentors. But Parker wasn't just teaching Elvis fighting techniques. Their relationship involved a secret collaboration that wouldn't be revealed until decades after both men had passed away. Ed Parker wasn't impressed by Elvis's celebrity, said Bill Wallace, a kickboxing champion who knew both men. He treated Elvis like any other student, and I think that's exactly what Elvis needed and wanted. Under Parker's tutelage, Elvis progressed rapidly through the belt ranks. By the mid-1960s he had earned a black belt and would eventually claim to have achieved the rank of 8th degree black belt, an extraordinary achievement that some martial arts historians question, but which Parker himself affirmed before his death. What exactly happened during those training sessions that propelled Elvis through the ranks so rapidly? The answer would reveal a side of the king that few ever witnessed. At Graceland, Elvis converted part of the mansion into a private dojo where he would train at all hours of the day and night. He often required members of his entourage, the Memphis Mafia, to join him for sparring sessions regardless of the hour. "You'd get a call at 3 a.m., remembered Red West, one of Elvis's bodyguards who was also a skilled martial artist. Elvis would be on the line saying, 'Come over, let's work out,' and you didn't say no to Elvis." But these weren't just casual practice sessions. According to those who participated, something transformative was happening in that hidden dojo that would eventually make its way onto the world's biggest stages. As the 1960s progressed, Elvis became increasingly fascinated with the spiritual and philosophical aspects of martial arts. He studied ancient texts, meditated, and sought to integrate the discipline of karate into every aspect of his life. For a man whose existence had become increasingly chaotic, martial arts offered structure, purpose, and a sense of control that was otherwise lacking. But there was another, more surprising reason for Elvis's deepening interest in karate, one that wouldn't be revealed until 2022 when a cache of private documents came to light. Something happened during those years that transformed Elvis's relationship with martial arts from personal interest to public expression. The catalyst came in 1968 with the famous Comeback Special, but what viewers didn't realize was that they were witnessing the first public fusion of Elvis's two great passions, music and martial arts. If you look closely at this pivotal performance, a pattern emerges that would become increasingly evident over the next 9 years of Elvis's career. The truth that has remained hidden for decades is that those famous jumpsuits, perhaps the most iconic element of Elvis's later image, were far from mere flamboyant showmanship. They were specifically designed as modified karate JUMPSUits, traditional martial arts uniforms adapted for stage performance. The high collars, wide legs and belted waists weren't stylistic choices but functional elements that allowed Elvis to execute karate movements while performing. This revelation transforms our understanding of Elvis's later career in ways that few could have imagined. Elvis would often discuss his costume designs in terms of functionality, revealed Bill Billou, the designer who created Elvis's jumpsuits. He'd say things like, "I need to be able to kick at least this high or make sure I can throw a proper punch without ripping the seams." These weren't the concerns of a singer, but of a martial artist. As Elvis's jumpsuits evolved through the 1970s, becoming more elaborate and eye-catching, their fundamental design remained tied to their original purpose: to serve as a performance uniform for a man whose stage show had secretly become as much a martial arts demonstration as a musical performance. As Elvis's Las Vegas shows evolved through the early 1970s, his stage movements became increasingly influenced by his martial arts training. What audiences perceived as dynamic entertainment was actually a series of modified karate techniques. During instrumental breaks, Elvis would often execute a sequence of strikes, blocks, and kicks that, to the untrained eye, looked like random dramatic movements, but were actually precisely choreographed martial arts forms. But there was one night in Vegas when Elvis's martial arts display went beyond mere performance, resulting in an unexpected situation that was quickly covered up by his management team. But there's a darker chapter to this story that few people know and that changes everything we thought we understood about Elvis's later years. On September 16, 1974, at the Kang Rhee Institute in Memphis, Elvis participated in a private martial arts demonstration with Ed Parker and several other high-ranking martial artists. No press was allowed, and all attendees were sworn to secrecy about what transpired that night. For nearly 5 decades, this event remained shrouded in mystery, with only rumors and whispers suggesting what had actually occurred. According to multiple witnesses who were present, a serious accident occurred during this closed-door demonstration. While demonstrating an advanced defensive technique with Ed Parker, Elvis allegedly struck one of the participants with unexpected force, causing a serious injury. The injured person was rushed to the hospital, and Ed Parker immediately took control of the situation, confiscating all film and photographs from the event, and making everyone present swear they would never discuss what had happened. The incident was successfully kept out of the press, but its impact on Elvis was profound and would affect the remaining years of his life in ways that are only now becoming clear. After that night, something shifted in Elvis's approach to martial arts. He focused more on the philosophical aspects and became more cautious about physical demonstrations, but his dedication never wavered. In fact, in 1974, he published a limited edition philosophical book called The Kung Fu Manual, which explored his personal interpretation of martial arts philosophy. Fewer than 100 copies were printed, making it one of the rarest Elvis artifacts in existence. The contents of this book, only recently examined by Elvis scholars, reveal a depth of spiritual and philosophical engagement that contrasts sharply with his public image from this period. What's even more surprising is that during these years, Elvis and Ed Parker were secretly developing plans for a serious martial arts film titled The Path. Unlike Elvis's Hollywood movies, this would have been a thoughtful exploration of martial arts philosophy, with Elvis playing a master guiding a troubled student toward enlightenment. Colonel Parker ultimately killed the project, deeming it too far removed from Elvis's established image. The script and concept artwork for this film, discovered among Ed Parker's effects after his death in 1990, reveal an ambitious project that might have transformed Elvis's career had it been made. But the question remains, why was Colonel Parker so adamantly opposed to this project, which Elvis was passionate about pursuing? As Elvis's health declined in his final years, his physical practice became more limited, but the influence of martial arts on his performances remained evident. Even when he could barely make it through a concert, he continued to incorporate karate-inspired movements and references into his shows. His jumpsuits evolved to accommodate his changing physique, but their fundamental design, inspired by karate JUMPSUITS, remained consistent to the end. This persistence suggests that martial arts remained a core element of Elvis's identity, even as other aspects of his life and career deteriorated. For decades after Elvis's death, the full extent of his martial arts training remained largely unknown to the general public. But in recent years, new evidence has emerged that has forced Elvis historians to re-evaluate this aspect of his life and career. In 2009, a previously unknown 8mm film surfaced showing Elvis practicing advanced karate techniques at Graceland in 1966, demonstrating a level of skill that surprised even martial arts experts. This footage contradicted the dismissive view some had taken of Elvis's martial arts claims, suggesting that his achievements in this area had been significantly underestimated. But the most revealing discoveries came in 2022, when Ed Parker's family found a cache of personal papers, photographs, and recordings that had remained sealed since Parker's death in 1990. These materials included detailed notes on Elvis's training, philosophical essays written by Elvis himself, and photographs from the infamous 1974 demonstration that had never been seen publicly. The contents of this archive have transformed our understanding of Elvis's martial arts journey and its significance to his life and career. The Parker archives contain something even more unexpected: detailed plans for how Elvis and Parker had deliberately incorporated karate techniques into Elvis's stage performances. They had created a coded system where Elvis could execute real martial arts movements in a way that would appear to audiences as simply dynamic stage choreography. The jumpsuits, the capes, even Elvis's famous stance, all were carefully designed elements of this hidden martial arts performance playing out on the world's biggest stages. This revelation transforms our understanding of Elvis's later performances, suggesting that what many critics dismissed as declining musical quality might actually have been a deliberate shift toward a different kind of artistic expression. The cape, which seems like pure showmanship, actually served to disguise the rotation of Elvis's torso during certain striking techniques, explains one of Parker's notes. The belt position was exactly where a karate belt would sit, and the wide legs were specifically cut to allow for deep karate stances. These technical details reveal a level of deliberate planning that few would have suspected, challenging the narrative that Elvis's later career was marked primarily by artistic decline rather than purposeful evolution. Perhaps most shocking of all was the discovery of Parker's account of the 1974 incident. His detailed description confirms the accident but adds crucial context that has been missing from previous accounts. According to Parker, the injury was serious but not life-threatening, and the decision to maintain secrecy was made not just to protect Elvis's image but also to shield the martial arts community from unwanted scrutiny. Parker's notes also reveal that this incident had a profound psychological impact on Elvis, triggering a period of soul-searching that intensified his interest in the spiritual aspects of martial arts, even as it made him more cautious about physical practice. These revelations have profound implications for how we understand Elvis's later career. The aesthetic that many critics dismissed as kitschy excess was in reality the expression of a disciplined martial artist who had found a way to integrate his spiritual practice into his public persona. Behind those jumpsuits was a man striving not just for entertainment value but for the physical and spiritual mastery that karate represented to him. The tragedy of Elvis's final years takes on new dimensions when viewed through this lens, the struggle of a martial artist whose body was increasingly betraying him, even as his understanding of the philosophical principles deepened. Elvis always said, "Karate saved my life," recalled Charlie Hodge, Elvis's longtime friend and stage assistant. Even when it couldn't save him in the end, it gave him something precious, a sense of purpose and discipline in a world where he otherwise had none. This poignant reflection suggests that Elvis's martial arts practice may have been one of the few stabilizing forces in his chaotic later years, perhaps even delaying his ultimate decline. As we continue to reassess Elvis's legacy, the significance of his martial arts practice offers a new lens through which to understand the man behind the myth. Far from being a footnote, his karate training was integral to who he became in his final decade, influencing everything from his philosophical outlook to his physical appearance and stage presence. The jumpsuits that have become such an iconic symbol of Elvis's later years were not, as many have assumed, merely flamboyant costumes designed for maximum visual impact. They were in a very real sense the uniform of a martial artist who had found a way to bring his two worlds together. The next time you see footage of Elvis in one of those famous jumpsuits striking a dramatic pose on stage, look more closely. What you're seeing isn't just a musical performance, it's a martial arts demonstration hidden in plain sight, the physical expression of a spiritual journey that Elvis kept private even as he shared it with the world in his own coded way. Behind the rhinestones and the cape was a man seeking balance, discipline, and control through the ancient practice of karate. And in those moments on stage when the music and movement came together in perfect harmony, Elvis found what he had been searching for. A way to be both the king of rock and roll and the martial artist he had become, united in a performance that was far more meaningful than anyone in the audience could have possibly realized.